Let me ask you something a bit strange. Have you ever known someone who's clearly smart, sharp, capable, hardworking, good at their job, and somehow they're always broke, or maybe close to broke, or maybe just never quite where they should be, given how much they earn? You probably have. You might even be that person. And if you are, I want you to know something important right at the start. You're not broken. You're not stupid. You're not lazy. You're not bad with money in some deep character flaw kind of way. You're just missing some specific things. Things almost nobody teaches. Things that are quietly working against you in the background every single day while your intelligence does its best to keep up. And here's the strange truth I've watched play out over the years. Smart people often have it worse than less smart people in this department, because smart people are good at convincing themselves their patterns make sense. They build clever stories around their financial habits. They explain away the problems. Their intelligence becomes the very thing that hides the trap. So tonight, I'm going to walk you through 10 specific reasons that smart people stay broke. I'm telling you right now, you will recognize yourself in at least 3 of them, maybe more. That's not a criticism. That's the point. The whole video only works if you let yourself see the patterns honestly. Let's get into it. The first one is so common, it's basically the default setting of modern life. Smart people earn more, and then they spend more, and then they wonder why they're not building wealth. This is lifestyle creep, and it gets worse the smarter and more capable you are. Because every promotion, every raise, every career win comes with the same subtle voice in your head. I've earned this. I deserve a slightly better apartment, a slightly nicer car, a slightly better lifestyle. So you upgrade, slowly, quietly. You don't even notice it happening. The takeaway dinners get a little nicer, the clothes get a little better, the apartment gets a little bigger, the car gets a little newer. Each individual upgrade feels completely reasonable. And then 5 years later, you look up and you're earning 40% more than you used to, but you're not 40% richer. You're not even 10% richer. Your expenses grew right alongside your income, and the gap between the two, the part that actually becomes wealth, never widened. The wealthy figured out something most smart people never do. They let their income grow much faster than their lifestyle. They captured the gap. That gap is where wealth lives. Smart people give it away every time they get a raise. This one hits hard because it sneaks past your intelligence by dressing up as logic. Smart people often work in environments where appearing successful matters, offices, industries, social circles where image affects opportunity. So they invest in looking like they're winning. The right clothes, the right car, the right address, the right watch. And here's where the intelligence betrays them. A smart person can justify almost any purchase. This suit will help me get promoted. This car signals competence to clients. This apartment is in a neighborhood where I can network. All true, all defensible, all financially destructive when added up. The trap is that looking successful and being successful are completely different things. Looking successful drains you. Being successful means the money is quietly going into investments and assets you'll never show anybody. The wealthy person at your office is rarely the one with the nicest car. They're often the one driving the 8-year-old Honda nobody notices. If your strategy for getting ahead requires you to look ahead first, you're not getting ahead. You're paying for the costume. Here's a reason that catches almost every smart, responsible person. They save. They're proud of saving. They've been told their whole life that saving is the responsible thing. So they put money in a savings account at their bank, watch the balance grow a little each year, and feel good about being financially mature. But they never actually invest. There's a huge difference between saving and investing, and it's the difference between treading water and swimming forward. Savings accounts pay almost nothing, usually less than 0.5%. Inflation runs around 3 to 4%. So every dollar in a savings account is quietly losing real value every year. Investing in broad index funds on average grows somewhere around 7% a year after inflation. That's not a small difference. Over 30 years, $1,000 invested becomes around $8,000. $1,000 saved in a normal bank account becomes about $1,100 and buys less than the original $1,000 did because of inflation. Smart people who only save are confusing the appearance of responsibility with the math of wealth. The bank account looks like progress. The math says it isn't. This one is specifically a smart person problem, and it might be the cruelest one on the list. A smart person looks at investing and sees complexity: stocks, bonds, index funds, ETFs, retirement accounts, tax implications, asset allocation. They want to understand all of it before they start. They want to make the right decision. So they research, they read books, they watch videos, they go down rabbit holes, they learn about advanced strategies they're not ready for yet. They keep wanting just a little more information before they pull the trigger. And 5 years later, they still haven't invested a single dollar. Meanwhile, the less curious person who just opened a brokerage account, bought a broad index fund without overthinking it, and started contributing $100 a month, that person now has thousands of dollars compounding. Smart people lose the most to overthinking. The dumbest possible investment started today beats the perfect investment that you never actually start. Action matters more than knowledge, and smart people, of all people, are usually the worst at understanding that. Smart people often have a particular kind of debt problem, not credit card debt from impulsive spending. They're usually too disciplined for that. But debt from things that seemed like good ideas. Smart person debt. A car loan, because the new car was more reliable. A bigger mortgage, because the bigger house was a better investment. A leased vehicle, because leasing was tax efficient. A line of credit, because you should always have access to liquidity. Student loans extended way too long, because low-interest debt is fine. Each decision had a story attached to it that made sense to a smart person. But debt is debt. Interest is interest, and every dollar you're paying in monthly interest is a dollar that could be building wealth instead. The wealthy people I've watched over the years almost all share one trait. They are deeply uncomfortable with debt that isn't building income. They pay it off quickly. They avoid taking it on in the first place. They don't justify it with clever stories. They just don't carry it. If you're smart and you're broke, look at your monthly debt payments first. There's almost always a story attached to each one, and underneath the story, there's usually money quietly leaving your life. This one is the inverse of the latte advice, and it traps a lot of smart, careful people. A smart person obsesses over their small expenses. They track every dollar. They cut their coffee. They skip lunches out. They feel virtuous about every minor saving. They've got a beautiful spreadsheet. Meanwhile, they're paying way too much for their apartment, leasing a car they don't need, carrying insurance they don't need, and never asked whether their cable and phone bills could be negotiated. They're optimizing pennies and bleeding dollars. Big decisions matter more than small ones. A single bad housing decision can cost $100,000 over its term. A single bad car decision, $50,000. Cutting coffee saves a few hundred a year. The math isn't close. Smart people often have this exactly backwards because the small things feel controllable and the big things feel scary. So they fight the battles they can win, the small ones, and avoid the battles that actually matter. Until you face the big decisions, no amount of small stuff optimizing will catch up. Strange, isn't it? Smart, capable people often earn less than they should because they don't negotiate. They tell themselves stories about why it would be awkward. They assume their boss already knows what they're worth. They wait to be recognized. They think hard work alone will be enough. It almost never is. The data on this is brutal. People who change jobs strategically earn substantially more over their lifetime than people who stay put. People who negotiate every raise out-earn people who don't by significant margins. People who ask for what they're worth, calmly and professionally, almost always get more than people who never ask. Smart people often equate self-advocacy with arrogance. They feel uncomfortable making the case for themselves. So they let the market underpay them year after year while telling themselves it's somehow the noble path. It isn't. It's just expensive. If you're smart and you're broke, ask yourself when you last had a serious conversation with your boss about your compensation. If the answer is more than a year ago or never, you've found one of the reasons. A lot of smart people understand finance in their heads. They know what they should do. They've read the books. They could explain compound interest to a stranger at a dinner party. But they don't do what they know, because money isn't a math problem. Money is a psychology problem with math attached, and smart people often have very sophisticated psychological issues with money that no amount of intellectual understanding can override. The fear of investing because losses feel worse than gains feel good. The shopping that happens when you're stressed. The avoiding of looking at the bank account when you're worried. The spending that quietly fills emotional gaps. The avoiding of financial conversations with your partner because they're uncomfortable. These aren't intelligence problems. They're emotional patterns running in the background, controlling decisions that your smart brain thinks it's making rationally. And the smart brain is often the last to notice that its decisions aren't actually rational at all. The wealthy people I've watched over the years aren't smarter about money. They're more honest about money, about their own fears, habits, and emotional triggers. They've done the inner work that smart people often skip because they think their intelligence alone will protect them. It won't. This one is quiet and devastating, and it gets almost everyone. A smart person looks at their financial life and thinks, I'll really get serious about this when I make a bit more, when the kids are older, when I pay off this one loan, when I get the next promotion, when the market is better, when the market is worse, when I have more time, when I have a clearer plan. The waiting never ends. The right time is a moving target that smart people are unusually good at convincing themselves they haven't reached yet. Meanwhile, every year that passes is a year of compounding lost forever. Time is the single most valuable resource in building wealth, and the only one you can never get back. A person who starts investing 5 years late will end up with dramatically less money than someone who started imperfectly 5 years earlier. Even if the late starter contributes more, even if they're smarter about it, the right time to start is always now, with whatever you have, however imperfectly. Smart people resist this because starting badly offends their sense of how things should be done. But starting badly and adjusting beats waiting for perfection, every single time. This is the deepest one, and it might explain all the others. A lot of smart, capable people quietly carry a belief that wealth is for other people. People with rich parents, people who got lucky, people who inherited connections, or capital, or some advantage they didn't have. They've absorbed, somewhere along the way, the idea that there's a ceiling for people like them. So even when they understand what they should do, even when they have the income to do it, even when the path is right there in front of them, some part of them doesn't fully believe they're going to end up wealthy, so they don't act like someone who's going to end up wealthy. They act like someone who's hoping to keep up. This is the saddest one I see, because it's the most preventable. Wealth in the modern economy isn't reserved. It's accessible to almost anyone with a reasonable income who consistently applies the basic patterns over enough years. But you have to believe it's possible for you, not just in principle. Specifically for you. If you don't believe it, you won't do the small, uncomfortable things that build it. You won't invest while your friends are spending. You won't drive the older car while your colleagues lease. You won't have the awkward conversations about money. You won't ask for the raise. The first reason smart people stay broke is often that they don't believe, deep down, that they're allowed to stop being broke. And nothing changes until that belief does. So there they are. 10 reasons, and I told you at the start you'd recognize yourself in at least 3. I'd guess you actually recognized yourself in more. That's not a failure. That's an opportunity, because you can't fix what you don't see. And smart people are particularly good at not seeing their own patterns, precisely because their intelligence is constantly explaining the patterns away. The good news is, every single one of these reasons is fixable. You can let your lifestyle grow slower than your income. You can stop buying things just to look successful. You can start investing instead of just saving. You can act before you fully understand. You can avoid the debt traps. You can focus on the big decisions instead of optimizing pennies. You can ask for the raise. You can do the inner work. You can start now. You can decide to actually believe. None of these require more intelligence than you already have. They just require honesty. So here's the question I want you to carry with you for the rest of the day. Which one of the 10 was the hardest to hear? Not the one that's obviously not you, the one that made you uncomfortable, the one your brain immediately started explaining away. That one is the one to look at, because that's not a flaw, that's a clue. That's the place where your intelligence has been covering for a pattern, possibly for years, and the moment you let yourself see it clearly, instead of explaining it away, is the moment things start changing. Smart people don't stay broke because they're missing intelligence. They stay broke because they're missing awareness. Awareness is free. It just requires honesty. You have everything you need. I'm Larry. I'm the Money Rebel, and I'll see you in the next video.